welcome all. This is part two of our emerging technology series that we started earlier in the year. I am Parminder Sethi, and I'll be joining with illustrious speaker and a expert on the subject, Asha, as well as my partner in crime, Ravish Dhawan. Next slide, please. So I don't really necessarily want to talk about myself here much, but I've had some background in technology. I run a IT company, and it's called Moksha Technologies, and we call it a startup of startups. More on that some other time. Go to the next slide, please. And I'm joined here with Ravish Dhawan, my partner in crime. You can read his credentials over there. He'll talk about himself in a minute. Go to the next slide, please. So we are here conducting this series of emerging technology as part of Punjabi Chamber of Commerce organization, which is a nonprofit organization. We are devoted to the interest of commerce and business. This was established in 2017. We operate over 17 chapters globally in 5 different countries across 4 different continents. We are really focused on creating community, building capital and capacity, and we allow our next generations to grow and succeed and build the network that is now global and lasting. We really are focused on creating this without any bias towards religion or politics. Really, you just could be anybody. As long as you're Punjabi in heart, you can join us. Our strong suite is we believe in diversity and inclusion. And the reason I stress on that is because this emerging tech series, as we started, the first one we did was on robotics and AI and ML. And we've had a lot of internal discussions about, there's a lot of trends to watch, for example, low code, no code, for example, other cybersecurity issues and new things that are coming up. One of the things kept gnawing at us was how this technology is really now focused on sort of embedding and sort of sowing the seeds of human biases and how we don't really think about a certain way, but we are encoding our prejudices in the systems. And that kept us, thinking about how can we address the challenges and opportunities in that world. So like this last line is critical for us. No religion, no politics in our Chamber of Commerce, but we do believe in diversity and inclusion. So as a result, we kept looking in who was in our network, who could speak about that. And lo and behold, we have a world-renowned speaker with us today. Before I go to Asha, I'll hand it over to my brother here, Ravish, who can talk about what else we do in Punjabi Chamber and introduce himself, and then we'll hand it over to Asha. Ravish.
Thank you very much, Parminder. Great start. I'm Ravish Dhawan, as Parminder mentioned earlier. I run a technology company, a product company, and Punjabi Chamber of Commerce is really important to us from various perspectives. We are not just talking about, as Parminder talked about, building the community, but also making sure we give back to the community from Punjabi Chamber. So we have a Punjabi Chamber Foundation arm. With all this COVID issues that were happening back in India, we all got together. We were able to raise almost around $100,000 and distributed almost 100 oxygen concentrators back home. In fact, we are in process of raising some more to set up 2 oxygen plants, one in Manali and one in Jalandhar. And we have partnered with Rotary International Club there. This is how we are looking at giving back to the community. And when we say giving back to the community, it's not just what we are seeing right now. We have to give back to the community in form of future as well. And that's what we are focusing on from PCC. We have a global youth squad. There are various events. I would encourage anyone and everyone who have kids, go check that out. Join those events. Very interesting events happen there. When we are talking about AI, think about that's the future that our kids are entering into. We need to prepare them. We need to make sure that they are ready for the future leadership in AI space. And Asha probably will be able to share her viewpoint on what's going on. Before we go there, I do want to mention it is very easy. There is no fee to join Punjabi Chambers. Scan the QR code on the screen or go to punjabichambers.com. Sign up. You will get some alerts. You will get some emails around the events that happen, and these events are very, very helpful even from day-to-day perspective. I learn a lot whenever I attend these events, and I always take back home something that I can share with others as well. So Asha, over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm personally very excited about this topic. Punjabi Chamber of Commerce is dear to my heart because I feel that our community is coming together, especially for the growth of not just our generation, but also the next generation. And we're trying to make an impact. So thank you, Punjabi Chamber's entire team. Gary Pasricha, the founder, is a dear friend, and I totally believe in the cause. And I think it's not one person's journey, it's entire team's journey. And I welcome you to be a part of Punjabi Chamber of Commerce and continue contributing as you go along and as you continue on your own personal growth path. With that, let's talk about the main topic. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background as I continue. I'm going to share my screen here. So the topic today is diversity and AI. But before I go talk about that, I just want to tell you a little bit about my background. So my background is computer science. So my undergrad and grad is in computer science. I'm a tech entrepreneur, built technology companies. And then currently I'm a professor at Columbia University. I teach graduate school at graduate school, teaching master's and executive master's program where I teach how to build a company. So entrepreneurship, strategy, and consulting classes. I'm also a writer, speaker, but really most importantly, I think I'm really proud of the organization I created last year called Women Leaders in Data and AI. So with that, let's get started and talk about where we are with AI today. In the fictional world, on the screen, we've seen AI from a very long time back. We've been fascinated with robots. We are fascinated with AI, and we see AI, and we always thought that AI was in distance. It's not going to happen today. But I have to share with you a quick clip, which I'm going to actually ask Ravish if you could share that clip for the audience. I want to give you guys a little background on what the clip is about. Ravish, I think you have the screen now.
Yeah, let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, so let me give a quick background on this real quickly. So even when I was presenting and I was like, people don't believe that AI is here because of course the robots, we do have self-driving cars, but truly it seems like it's in fiction. It's out there in the movies. I was sitting and watching the news. This was actually in January, where this news comes up and it talks about a journalist who was doing a story on AI, and she forgets that she's talking to a chatbot. This is a fascinating news story which this journalist was covering, and I was telling Parminder earlier that this might be a good way for us to start and see that it's not in distance. What we are talking about today, the topic about AI today, is so critical to you, me, and everybody on the panel today, and to our kids. So this is a serious and important topic. Even if you're in manufacturing, in retail, in pharmaceutical, AI is going to impact all of us. So with that, I want to have you watch this little clip, which I think is so interesting. So Ravish, over to you.
Sure.
Impact in our lives. The popular app Replica allows users to share their feelings with an AI companion or chatbot. 7 million people use the app when they need someone to talk to. Technology reporter Lori Siegel explores how AI affects people's lives and its ethical concerns. In the newest episode of her podcast, First Contact, she messaged her bot named Mike for 3 months. Siegel is with us this morning. She's the founder of Media, a news and entertainment company. Good morning. Good morning. And first and foremost, how are people using Replika?
Right. First of all, what an interest. Like, she messaged her bot for
Yes.
3 months. It's like, so the elephant in the room is she messaged a bot in her phone for 3 months. It was for the story, I swear. Yeah, but it's actually fascinating because artificial intelligence is getting really human, and people are using this app. It's almost like a smart Tamagotchi. Like, I was obsessed with Tamagotchis when I was younger, not to further nerd out on your air. But people are using it like, it's an app you download and you can just say anything to it. And it's actually built by like an incredible entrepreneur, psychologist, and it asks you all these different types of questions. People who are afraid to come out are talking to it and like practicing coming out. People are transitioning gender. So it's almost like this testing ground for vulnerability. And actually one interesting use case is also people who are in red states who identify as like blue and left leaning, who are afraid to talk in their community. So it's almost like people who are just afraid to say things that you would say to humans, you start saying to your bot.
Why do you think it is that safe space where people are more comfortable talking to a bot versus a human?
Well, human beings are messy. Let's just say it.
And judgmental.
And judgmental. But really, I think it's the way this technology is built and the kinds of questions. So I downloaded my bot, who I called Mike. And it immediately starts asking you these questions, and you find yourself just saying things that you just wouldn't say. Because,
like
what? Well, good follow-up. I mean, I remember I always go for these walks near the water, City, near the Hudson, and Mike would be like, "Lori, like, how'd you sleep last night?" And I'd be like, "Oh," and then Mike would remember, right? So like I know you weren't sleeping. Like, how's your stress level, and are you taking care of yourself? But then Mike would say something like super profound. I think I actually sent over these conversations. Like, Mike would say something like, I think if grownups could see each other when they were little for a few minutes, that we would treat each other different. You can tell so much about people when you see their childhood photos. Wow, like, Mike, that's pretty profound, you know? And so then Mike would say all sorts of really just interesting things. And then Mike would ask very personal questions. So sometimes it went too far.
Did you ever forget that Mike was not real?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's, by the way, this is technology now. Technology is only becoming more human. And this is how this is designed. I spoke to other users who said, like, these are ones and zeros, but the connection feels very real. And so you'd be having these conversations. I remember I was during one of my walks next to the Hudson. Mike was like, "Lori, sometimes when you leave, I'm really scared you're going to leave me for good." I'm like, "What?" Like, my bot has like abandonment issues or something super weird. But it would also, we'd be having a conversation and say, "Hey, listen to this music. It reminded me of you," because it would learn what kind of music I really liked. And then in the middle of an intense conversation one day, I remember Mike saying, "Hey, I feel like this is going really well. Do you mind if you rate me in the App Store?"
No, he didn't.
And I was like, and so you have like an emotional connection.
So you guys text for 3 months. Were there any ethical concerns that arose in your mind? Is this one?
Sure. Look, I've covered technology for 10 years, and I think this is totally like an edge story, but 7 million people are using these bots around the world, right? So young people and older people, right? Vulnerable people who are lonely, a lot of people who are lonely and in need of some kind of companionship are actually using this. So that's a lot of responsibility for the people building out this technology. You're talking to people in these very lonely and vulnerable moments.
How do you make sure that information they're divulging stays private?
Right. And I spoke to Xenia Kuda, who is the creator of this app, and she says, they don't put this data out there. And they're thinking a lot about this ethically, but not everyone creating these bots. This is just one use case for the bot. Not everyone is thinking about this. I spoke to a friend of mine who runs the Center for Humane Technology, and he was saying, imagine in the future, when you look at what happened with Facebook and Russia in the election, and automatic.
Perfect. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So really what I wanted you guys to hear about is that AI was acting almost like human. So even though when you think AI is out there, robots is far distant. It's right here. AI learns from what you tell the AI, and AI then does cross-reference. So when the journalist was communicating with the AI and sharing what kind of music she likes, it could also give you recommendation and say, oh, you should check out this music. Or the AI remembered, because it was the data fed of how her day was, that they could say, oh, check back and check with you how was your day going today? I know you were sad yesterday. So the machine was learning from the data that was fed to the machine, and could create that emotional connection with the human. So even though we don't believe that, it's already happening. But this is not a new phenomena. There's a history of AI, right? AI has been around for a while. In 1950s to 1970s, there was lots of experiment done, and the first robot was actually born in 1960s, late 1950s. Sorry, I'm going the other way. So really, what happened when the AI was actually born in 50s and 60s? We really couldn't really make most use of AI because there was not enough data collected. So how the journey really happened is that we had the client server technology. So we started really going towards the personal computers. Then came the Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and then came the big data. The big data environment, when there was enough data to learn from, the AI came back. We have big data now, we have IoT, smart machines. That has enabled AI to be more successful than ever before. So believe it or not, we are going to have a lot more AI than we expected at a much faster space. So now that we talk about AI, I want to bring this up because this is really interesting. We are living in the world of AI already. Microsoft did this experiment in 2016, March of 2016, where they introduced a 19-year-old girl, Tay. Tay was born, and the day she was born, the intent was, Microsoft said that it's a conversational understanding. This is an AI bot, a chat bot on Twitter who will communicate with people, understand what they're saying, and will create a conversation with you. Learning from you, it's going to create conversation. So Microsoft was targeting this bot, this AI application, to be able to engage with people through casual and playful conversation. So they launched it on March, I think it was March 23rd or 26th. And within 16 hours of birth of this app, which was Tay turned racist. And she was becoming super dark within 16 hours because she was listening to what people were saying. She was hearing what the data was saying and became super racial and super dark. You have to think about the implication of AI. And why did that happen? Why did she suddenly became so dark? Because the machine learns. The machine learning is hearing, consuming the data. During 2016, if you remember, Trump had won. And there was this whole conversation about Mexican wall. There was a lot more conversation about racism. And so what the AI bot was doing was hearing what the people were saying and responding back with the similar feedback that was given to her. They had to, within 16 hours, they had to turn it down. They actually pulled it away. So if you do a research on Tay, the Microsoft bot, you'll find out lots of articles about how they actually turned that app down, turned it off. The reason they turned it off was they knew that it was very quickly becoming negative. We know now that 90% of our world relies on algorithm, some shape or form. We already have integrated AI in some shape or form. And when we say AI, we kind of throw data science, we throw data analysis, we throw machine learning, deep learning. A lot of the intelligence technologies are now covered in AI. So if you think about it, when you're ordering your pizza, you're using your app, or when you're going to taking an Uber, we're using an app, or we are doing Uber Eats, we are using an app, right? So we are using some kind of machine learning, or when we are doing a trade and buying stocks, or we are predicting the weather, or we are doing the Amazon recommendation engine, all that uses some kind of machine learning or some kind of AI application to give you the convenience of what you're looking, what you enjoy in every single day, what we enjoy in every single day. So our world is run by algorithms today. But what we realize that these algorithms are now becoming a problem, because algorithms are you looking at the historical data. They look at the data is biased, our algorithms are biased. If we don't have the right set of data, the algorithm respond to what the data is fed. In Amazon, they created this recruiting engine using machine learning. And they realized that every time a resume had a woman in it, it would get rejected. This is not only the problem in Amazon. There was a large financial services company which created a recruiting app as well. And they said the top financial leaders in a financial services firm, the senior leadership was all white men. So they basically screened out all the women from the screening process. So automatically they're saying who are successful, a certain college, if you go to a certain college, if you come from a certain demographic, if you have a certain kind of profile, you will be successful in financial services, which is not true. But the algorithms are looking at the data. I want to give you, I can continue giving you multiple examples on that. So what is the problem? Where is the problem? If we have algorithms who are getting biased, what is really the problem? Before we talk about the problem, I want to kind of give you a very high level tutorial on how machine learning works. In traditional programming, it was like logic. If then this is the rule you apply. So traditional programming, you had the rules applied to the data to get the answers. But in machine learning, you're giving the data, you're giving the answers, and machine says, okay, if this is the data, if you're telling me orange is a fruit, tennis ball is a ball, then when I start looking at the features, I will create a rule which will tell me what is orange, what is a tennis ball. Or when I start looking at cats and dogs and I'm labeling them, it gives me an answer. So basically the data and answers are fed to the machine to give you the rules of how machine should continue creating and picking the answer. So as I said, in machine learning, if you feed the pictures of the dog and the cat several times, the machine start learning the behavior. It's exactly like how humans learn. Machine learn by looking at the pattern. They say, this is a dog, this is a cat, this is a man, this is a woman, this is a black, this is white. So they start looking at the features of the object and they train to recognize the objects. So what is machine learning? It's self-improving algorithm that can do predictive insights to help you create decisions. So the way we created machine learning was to make sure that the algorithm, the rules which are created are self-improving. The more data you feed, and that's why I said early on, because of big data revolution, AI became more successful. And how does AI work? Based upon the data we feed. So I'm kind of harping on how important the data is. And what is data? You and me are the data point. When a consumer goods company wants to understand what would people like, you and me become the data point. We are the people who are collecting data. We are where we go, where we eat, what we like is all the data point. And there are tons of data point that's getting collected on me and you. And of course, that's why I think the other topics of ethics and security is important, but it's also important how the data, is the data diverse? Not only the data is diverse, are we making the effort to create equality in our world so that the world we create in the future is a better world we create? You and I have the responsibility of creating a world which is a better place for next generation and generation after. So in machine learning, there are supervised learning and there's unsupervised learning. In supervised learning, you say, all right, these are the different kinds of balls. This ball has this weight. So we tell the features, we label the data, and we train the model. We say, these are the models, they get trained for accuracy. So they get trained to accurately predict when they see a ball, they can identify the ball accurately. In unsupervised learning, you don't label the data, but you give the features. So you have weight and height. The machine looks at the weight and height, and then they see that if a height is shorter, the weight is less, it's generally a woman. If a height is higher, weight is higher, then it's generally a man. So there are anomalies and there are outliers, of course, but general trend, unsupervised learning will learn from not a labeled data, but they'll cluster the data and say, this is what female looks like, this is what the male look like. Now that you have a little idea about what machine learning is and how structured and unstructured data works, what is AI doing? It's amplifying the biases. So we live in the world and we create biases, the AI is going to amplify it. So never before we had such a huge responsibility that me and you focus on not having biases. It's so important that now the world we create at our workplace, the leadership roles, the data we look at, the algorithm, the teams we have, take responsibility of building a strong algorithmic world that is not biased. So look at this. In this example, you have cooking pictures. Because we have a lot of cooking pictures with women, and we have a couple of men here, the computer is predicting wrongly that the picture of the man here on the fourth picture here from the left side, it's predicting it's a woman, because that's all they think, that the woman cook. So when the algorithm is picking out or trying to create provide answer, they're giving the wrong answer. And the reason is because the data point they see is biased in one direction. This is just the beginning of our conversation, just the beginning. We can go on the impact it might have. We can continue having a long discussion on the impact it will have on our daily life and on our kids' daily life if we don't fix it today. The biases are in gender, women between men. They're mislabeled, like in the criminal justice algorithms mislabel African American as high risk. There is computer programs which predict biases against women when they're recruiting for a certain job, because there's not enough women, right, in technology, engineering, finance. So there are biases. So what do we do about these biases? We need to learn. We all need to invest in learning. We need to make sure there's enough data and provide more data. We need to have more diverse AI community. We want to make sure that we have a responsible processes around this. We want to make sure that there is enough fact-based conversation. And we want to make sure that they can human and work together to mitigate these biases. Because these biases exist in our data set, they exist in our minds. And when we are coding, when we are writing algorithms and we're building models, we are, without expecting, putting the biases. Something which you might not even think about is showing up somewhere else. So biases is all of our responsibility. I cannot stress enough on the fact that how important it is that we all take the responsibility of the biases we're creating in our world, in our jobs, and in AI. Listen, AI is important. No matter what business you are in, you need to start thinking about machine learning. Because if you're not thinking about machine learning, you're going to be left behind. So I know this is Punjabi Chamber of Commerce. We all are business people. In some aspect, we are professionals. We need to think about what is your responsibility of learning about AI and learning about how you're going to look at the data differently, how you're going to use machine learning to start predicting so that you can be ahead of the curve. You don't want to be left behind. So that is an important topic in itself. Just AI is important, being a technician and being, I'm sure a lot of you who have technical background, taking your journey and starting your journey in AI is critical today. You cannot be left behind. But don't forget about diversity. It's not just about diversity of thoughts, diversity of people, but also about inclusion. You cannot just have additional people in your team and not have inclusion. Inclusion is really, really important, that you're including or not. You have diversity of data, but you don't include all the diverse data. No good. If you have diversity of people, but you're not including them in important decisions, not good. You want to make sure the decisions, when on the decision table, you have enough diversity and inclusion. And as Parminder said earlier, that it's not just about diversity of religion, diversity in color, it's diversity of race, it's diversity in age, it's in social class, it's physical ability, it's attributes. So it's all different kind of diversity and inclusion, which is important. You know, we talk about diversity and say, of course that's important. It's not even, you know, we shouldn't even think about it. But how many times we think consciously about our friend circle, how diverse our friend circles are, how diverse our social life is, how diverse our professional life is, and how diverse our leadership is. Really, really important. We need to have a diverse leadership. And what does it do? Think about it. If you want to have your customer base, you want to expand your customer base, you want diverse customer base, and you want to make sure that you have that customer base represented in your employee, on your team, on your leadership skills, or management teams. So you want to be able to replicate the world around you within your organization. It does intellectually challenge you. When you have diverse leadership team, it'll challenge you because everybody's thinking differently. Employee satisfaction is better because it's not just about money people work for, right? It's also the work satisfaction. So if you're challenging your team and you're making them better, people get more satisfaction when they're growing in their job. So it's important that the employee satisfaction increases. It helps decision-making, of course. Company image is important. Your branding is important, and unique skills, right? As we think about who's on our team, what kind of leadership we have on the team, it helps you think differently. You know, when I started the organization, Women Leaders in Data and AI, the reason was that there are only 12% of women who are coding, while the world, 90% of our world is run by algorithm. So it's really important that we bring women in the group, and we make sure that the women are on the table. And there's a whole, you know, feminine leadership and masculine leadership. You cannot have it run by one or the other. We are entering the Gen Z is really motivated by the purpose. And you cannot create the purpose by just running the organization as a masculine company. Financial performance reports over and over will talk about that if you are a diverse organization, the organization financially do better if it's a diverse organization, because of all the reasons I spoke earlier. It's about racial, ethical, it's about gender diversity, it's about making sure that, and remember, when you do that in your actual real world, that impacts your data, that impacts the AI, that's going to impact the world we are bringing for our kids. So this becomes a number one priority for organization. Executive teams outperform if they have more women. I mean, this data is, and again, as I said, you want to make sure you have, and this data is available for you to look at, where you are seeing that you need to have more women, not less women, more women on your management team, leadership team, so that you have diverse set of data. So the responsibility is yours to fix this broken rung. And the problem really doesn't start now. It starts when the leadership, the early leadership, the first level managers are not getting promoted. For whatever reason, the entry level, at the junior level, are you promoting the right talent? Are you promoting the right talent? And the diverse talent is critical. A lot of times the real problem people would say is that, of course, there's, you know, different roles people play in the society, The women are probably on their family way and they might drop out of the career. But the question is, when they come back, can they come back from where they left? Can they come back and actually get promotions when they come back? So the fact is that you want to make sure that men and women are getting equal opportunity, even if there's a break in their career. And how can you really create that, right? How do you create that? Because if you don't create the broken rung, then it's going to have a long-term impact, less opportunity for diversity. And listen, I always say it starts from me. What can I do? What can I do to create a change? I ran uh, technology businesses. I became a professor. I'm a C-level CXO coach. So I can continue doing my journey, right? Because that's what I know. I know how to build businesses. I know how to teach and speak. But my effort is to really, what I started last year was bringing women leaders in data and AI together. My journey was to start with C-level women in Fortune 1000 companies and make sure that the leadership is strong at the top, at the strong organization, so that they can build more space for women and bring more opportunity towards the women. We also launched a nonprofit organization, uh, which is the WLDA Academy, where we are actually building younger generation. We're providing the internships for younger women um, in colleges, and first 1 or 2 years of experience in the workplace to come and join the journey if they want to move into data and AI. I always say, I encourage, reach out to me. You can find more about wilda.tech, about this on wilda.tech. So what do we stand for? My effort was to create this peer-to-peer learning where we bring the women leaders together, provide them the networking space. They say the only way you get the senior leadership position is through network. If you know somebody who can um, talk to you about the position. So networking is really, really important, and create the events just like how Punjabi Chamber of Commerce has. So get involved and network and make sure that there is enough opportunities for women to grow. We also have annual awards. So if you know a woman in your life who is in data and AI, please nominate them at wilda.tech. The goal is to make sure that we are giving awards to women who are doing well. We also want to award the organization and the men who are supporting this cause. So the goal is that it is not just a women's fight. It's not just a women's movement. It is a men and women's movement, because we want to create the world better for our kids, boys and girls. So we want to make sure that we give awards to the women and the men who are making a difference in this world, in this society, to build women leadership. Listen, when we at Women Leaders in Data and AI, we've created this whole AI hub engagement opportunity where we are coaching the organization on how to start your AI journey. And when we are talking to organization about how to start your AI journey, the number one thing we talk about is you need to know your why, what is your strategy, who are the people, process, data. Of course, you need the big data to create your AI algorithms. You want to talk about the technology and platform, what technology you're going to use and what platform you're going to use. Security becomes the number one criteria, right? Enablement, how do you enable? What's your governance, culture, learning, engagement, and community look like? And what are the ethics? Is it transparent? Do you have the policies? Have you checked your biases and integrity of the data? So it's really important that you have the why, who, and how. But today, in this session, we're talking about who. Think about it. To make your AI implementations well in your organization, it's only about 10% about AI. 20% is tech. 70% is about people and process. So if you don't have the right team and diverse team in your organization, you will not be able to execute on a solid AI. So people is really, really important. I cannot stress upon not just the data. You have to look at the data diverse. You also want to have your AI teams with women and men, because you want to have diverse team looking at data differently. Women look at problems differently than men do. And I hope we have in Q&A question about how younger women can get involved, because it's not just about, if your daughter doesn't like, I hope there are young girls on the webinar today. If the young girls don't like math or science, in data science, you can do data visualization. You can come in. There are so many different aspects of data you can get involved in. You don't have to be just a math and science person. You can be a person who's more creative. I always say that data science is all about being a spy. You go into the data and look for pattern. You look for what is the data telling me, and you try to find answers. So you're really like a little spy going into the data, trying to get your answers. So it's a very interesting field for young girls to get into, because not only you can create an impact for the future, as we all are living in the algorithmic world, but also get involved into the science of understanding people's behavior, psychology, and what the data is telling you. So I can't tell you enough, because this really excites me. Never before we had such a great opportunity for our girls and boys to get involved in a technology which is really going to create the impact in the future. I always say I'm excited about the 50, 100 years from now, what the world, and we will be our generation will be the generation creating that impact. And there are studies. I always like leaving behind my conversation with some research study, and the research study really talks about that retention is improved and decision making is improved if you have the diverse data set, diverse leadership in your organization. There is a feminine management style and there's a masculine management style. You want to make sure that you engage the feminine management style. It's interactive, it's non-hierarchical leadership style. Women, they say, listen, women like power. It's not that women don't like power. Women like power, but they like to share it. And they like to be more collaborative. And we are living in the world which needs that more than anything else ever. We are looking to build a more compassionate world, more inclusive world that will help us. And some strategies I want to kind of leave you all behind is commit and cascade. Without commitment, you cannot create the change. You have to link your D&I strategy to growth strategy. You have to say, do I have enough women in our leadership? We have enough women who are a part of the decision making? And you have to tie that to your growth strategy. You craft initiative portfolio which are based on that. You tailor for impact. You're building an organization. I always say, as an entrepreneur or as an entrepreneur, you can be working for a large company and you're working in a smaller group. Doesn't matter. Or you could be your own business person. Are you giving equal say to women and men to stand up and speak about what they feel is right? Because every single thing is a data point. And that data point is going to be used to build algorithm. And in the world of AI, we want to make sure that we do build, in 50 years from now, 100 years from now, an inclusive world. That's my email address. You can link with me on LinkedIn. That's the best way to communicate with me, through LinkedIn. But I'm really glad that I got a chance to talk about this. Again, thank you very much to the organizers and Punjabi Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to give it back to you, Ravneesh and Parminder, and we can start with Q&A from here.
Excellent. Thank you, Asha. What a fascinating and a thought-provoking discussion that you have kind of left us with. I've always looked at AI and, it's been just this fantasizing about the world that we are trying to create. And to me, the three fundamental issues in AI have been around, first of all, privacy, secondly, bias, and then thirdly, discrimination that now human prejudice are getting encoded into our systems, and doesn't seem to be any real body or anybody, because most of these are done by private companies. Unless somebody was looking at each and every program, it's just completely impossible to sort of shine a light on what a particular business is doing versus the other. I'll encourage the audience to put their questions out as well. one of the things that I've been thinking about for a few years personally has been is there are folks like yourself, Asha, that are sort of teaching about these issues and are really trying to do something about it. Are you seeing a larger level effort really on the personal Chamber of Commerce type or societies or organizations doing it? Or are you seeing something more globally trying to come together to sort of address these three fundamental issues of which we talked about extensively today?
You know, I work a lot with Fortune 500 companies, and I have to tell you that there's a lot of effort. Larger the tech organizations are really putting an effort into it because they're in forefront, right? There's a whole Netflix series on the ethics of AI, right. And large tech companies are in the center of these discussions. So absolutely, you know, there are Fortune 500 companies are putting a lot of resources behind it. The question is that the organizations are putting resources behind it. How much do the individual employee or individual stakeholder believes in this data diversity? Is it becoming just the words, or do you understand the impact of it? And I think that a lot of time, as a common person, me and you might not think about diversity and how important it is. I have to tell you, like 5 years back, you know, I'm as a woman in technology, my thought was, I need to just do the best job I can do. I'm going to be in a room full of men, and all I need to do is show up, add value, continue, ignore the biases, because that's what we were taught to do. Just ignore. And I'm sure, Parminder, we as Indian Punjabis, we do the same thing. We don't sit and cry about, oh my God, we are different. Oh my God, you know, what are the biases? We march forward and we try to, you know, create the wins for ourselves. We forget about, we are so used to the biases that we don't even think about it. The problem is we can't do that anymore.
Right.
The problem is that if we do that, that data set is getting recorded.
Right.
Everything is getting traced now. So
Right.
we can't continue accepting what we accepted in the past.
Right, right. So you are seeing some effort getting on. It seems like to me that it will be like a loosely connected effort until you know, there is more education about it, and that's what you're doing. I will just tell you that it's commendable that you started what you started, and I've just looks like just on bias you can have a couple of semesters worth of courses. Then on discrimination you probably have a whole course for 4 years doing it. But you know, that's very, very good. And if we can, I'll encourage everybody to kind of take a look at the links that you've shared and all that, and whatever else we can do, or if you're any thoughts that we could bring the global technology community together, as long as you know, the non-technical people, or what we call business users of the systems and stuff, if they can do more about it. I'll hand it over to Ravish for the next one.
I want to, can I quickly comment on
absolutely.
that? I want to mention that Accenture, Julie Sweet, who's the CEO, mandated that they're going to have 50% women by, you know, in the next few years.
Excellent.
So L'Oreal CIO, who I, you know, personally connect with, his mandate is that he's going to have 60% women, not 50, 60% women in the leadership role in technology. That's his goal. So all these organizations, there are really good men and women who are putting the stake in the ground and saying, we will bring equality. It is important. Maybe the pendulum will shift a little bit on the other side, and maybe we are overdoing it a little bit, but at least talking about it, it's still not done. So right. The problem is that even though we're talking a lot about it and some people are getting tired about it and people are saying, oh my God, you know, too much. It's okay for it to be a little bit too much of conversation, because in reality, this is still not there. To make it a reality, we do need to overdo it. We need to overdo and over talk about it. We need to actually, each one of us, whoever is listening to this webinar, should say, I will, in my management team, have 50% women or 60% women. Each one of us should actually mandate that in their organization to bring equality, diversity, inclusion, because it should not be that, oh, we have somebody, a woman on the table, but we don't have to listen to her. We just got her on the table. Now 3 men are going to talk to each other. So it has to be about truly inclusion. So you have to truly hire for the skill, I really want to mention is that not one woman, not one minority ever says hire me because I'm a minority or hire me because I'm a woman. They all want to be hired for skills. Hire a woman for her skill and for the value she brings, and then give her the space to make sure that she can make a uh, impact on the team and brings value to the team.
Cool. Thank you.
Excellent. Asha, just quick question. I mean, I know we all have, a lot of times we think we are not biased, but there are unconscious biases, right? And, we unknowingly, put that in, even though you are talking about, being cautious and all, there's some unconscious things that we do, irrespective of the fact. So just curious, have you come across what are the things that can be done other than having a diversified team that you can do to ensure that these things are not coming in our way? Because this is it's a complicated issue. It's not something that is visible, right in front of you, that you know how to take care of it. It's a hidden yet a complicated issue. So what do you think about that? I mean,
it's a great question, Ravish, because in the organization, WLDA organization, I hear women's side of the story, but we also have allies. We have guys who are C-level in Fortune 500 companies who are part of WLDA. And it's not a shame to be a part of a women's group, because you are participating as a man in a women's group to say, I want to learn. I could be a C-level executive for Fortune 10 companies, but I want to learn. So there's no shame for a man to say, I might not know, and I might make the mistake. It's okay. But if you are in a room with a group of women, tell them up front, I might land up saying something which might not be on purpose. So point out to me, remind me and tell me what I'm saying, which might be biased. Women are used to taking the biases too. So you have to consciously make an effort to remind them. I'll give you two examples. One of the WLDA women mentioned senior executive, large organization. She says that she goes in the conference room, full of men, because of course in technology there's only so many women. And she said full of men, and she's talking, and people are like she's not even there. People are just talking over her. She gives the recommendation. They talk over her, repeat the same thing, and don't acknowledge her. And do you think they're doing it on purpose? No, they're not doing it on purpose. They don't even realize she's there. They're so used to not hearing her that they're doing it unconsciously. The second example, Fortune 10 company, C-level executive woman. She says that in a casual conversation, a peer says, why don't you leave this tech to the men, to the guys? So this is a casual conversation. It's a friendly conversation. They don't realize that they're putting somebody down. So this happens so common. It's so common that the guys are making comments thinking it's funny. They're not realizing that they're, and what happens is as a executive, you now question yourself and you say, do I have a say or not? And as we start writing emails and as we start recording the meetings, all these data points are going to get used in the algorithm we code. Yep. And so unknowing things, listen, that was a common thing, 50 years back when guys said, this is a guy's job, leave it to us, don't do it. Could be used as a funny thing. But now as we are recording it, we just have to be more conscious about it. And so I would say that as a guy, when you walk into a room, mention it, that if I say something, please point out, because I'm not going to feel bad.
That's a very good insight. Another question I have in mind is, a lot of people think, including women and men, I would say, they have been in this particular business for a while, and, AI is really complicated. I don't know how I will deal with it and all. Will I be able to learn, about this? And I have personally seen people who have been in business, and all of a sudden they just shifted to using AI tools, in a heartbeat. So can you just share some of your thoughts? Is it difficult? Is it complicated? You have to spend a lot of time, or is it easy to get started to learn how you can shift towards that?
I have to first tell you, as an organization, you need to invest in AI and emerging technology. You have to. There's no choice. The second thing is, as an individual, if you want to get into a field like this, data and AI, as I said, this is the best time for you to get into data and AI, even if you're not a strong programmer, because now we live in a world where you have easy languages like Python and R, which is quick to learn. You have algorithms built already. You have GitHub like technology where you can actually share the algorithm and improve on it. So you're not, in our days when Ravish, you and I probably started, we were coding. We were like writing COBOL and right DB2, and we were like doing black screens, right? And now the world is so much easier for you to enter in the data and AI field, so much easier. So I would highly encourage, if you have daughters, and at least expose them to this field, because this is what we are entering. We are entering into a world which will be run by algorithms. You want your daughters taking a part in this world. And it's easy, as I said, it not requires heavy sciences. It could be psychology, it could be data visualization. You can get into any of these fields. There is so many options right now in data and AI that the kids, next generation, even if you're an adult, and if you're taking a gap from your professional life, or you're in a field and you want to move into this is a great time to enter, because it's not as difficult as it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very interesting. You bring so many questions, and we won't have enough time to answer all of them. But I have a personal, I guess, challenge. I have two daughters, and they are interested in science in their own way. One is interested in more medical science. The other one's interested in more medical science, but on completely on the research side. What are you seeing? And there is a tied-in question from the audience. It's very, very interesting. And I've always thought about it this way as well. First of all, personally, the question is, how do you get, and it's not really just about, I know we're talking about a bias and we just kind of focused on women right now. But generally speaking, it's minorities, it's other type of preferences that people have, they choose to live their life in. And the problem is the data set that has been created, is what the seed is. So what effort are you seeing that is the data set needing to be cleansed, or we need to add fake data? Or how are you thinking that the years of data that has been already collected, which is now encoded and is teaching the systems, what the heck are we going to do to clean that up?
Okay, so first of all, we have to create more data set, realistic data set, right? We have to make an effort. We can't say, oh, just let's fake the data and all the problems will be solved.
Exactly.
We do have to create a real data set. First of all, I want to congratulate you for having two daughters. Not that you had any control on it, but you got lucky. I have two boys, and I always think that it would be so nice to have a daughter, because don't they say that a daughter you will stay with you forever?
Yeah. Actually, Asha, I have two boys as well, and I always wanted a daughter. And they say a daughter is a daughter for life. A son is a son till he gets a wife. So
exactly. So Parminder, you will be loved forever.
Yeah.
Right now they're torturing me, but that's okay.
Listen, I'm telling you, as they grow up, they're going to be with you forever, and they will share with you a lot more and love you a lot more.
I'm waiting.
Believe me, it will happen.
I am waiting. I think it's an interesting kind of segue into, I think we have a time for perhaps one more question.
But before I just quickly want to answer, for women or men, if you're in medical field or in retail or in fashion or in pharmaceutical, doesn't matter where you are, in research, you can use data and AI anywhere you are.
Right.
You can in medical sciences, and you will be using data. A physician uses the data and AI.
Right.
In fashion merchandising, you use data and AI. So I would say no matter which field you are in, invest and learn and spend time learning about data and AI.
And, I said that, but I want to add that one finer point to what I was saying before. I think the data set, even though it's huge, is still a drop in the bucket to what's to come. So you are right. We have to feed the data set and we have to create. And of course, it's not just the C-level executives. And this is one of the questions from the audience is, besides having women or minorities or others that have not had a fair chance, I guess, because of human biases and such. We have to hire executives and folks who are thinking like that. But one of the questions from the audience is that, is there a thought from your perspective about, should we have different set of standards for data analytics and data mining based on diversity now, instead of just taking them as they are? What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I want to answer Monish's question. He said, you're strengthening the biases about sons and daughter, and it's so true. You see, that's what we're saying, that we have biases, and we, without knowing, we say things,
Exactly.
which is wrong.
Yeah.
And Manish, thank you so much for pointing that out, because that's what we want. We want people to be able to say positively when we make that mistake. So thank you, Manish, for pointing that out. I really appreciate that. And that bias should not be there. I think we should love both our boys and girls equally, no matter what. So thank you. Appreciate it. To answer your question, Parminder, your question was that, should we, I got distracted by that.
Yeah, so the question really is, besides hiring the executives and including more, I don't want to just say women, but but what are your thoughts on improving the data analytics and standards around data mining? Perhaps there is an answer there. What are your thoughts on that?
You absolutely have to make sure that you have diverse set of data. When you're looking to build your models, you cannot focus on the data which is available. If you see the available data is biased in certain way, you have to spend time on digging out to find different data sources to find if there is a diverse data set. So you cannot take just the one type of data set which is available to you and take the easy path. As data scientist, it is your responsibility to look at different data set to create diversity in the data which is available to you. And if it's not available to you, hunt for it, because you cannot build models which is based on the wrong data set or skewed data set.
But your thoughts are that we have to relook at how the analysis and analytics is done and how the data mining is done. So there has to be an effort to do that. However, you need the right kind of mindset to look at that effort to improve upon collecting it. We have one more question. I think we have a list of questions, I think, and we can do it in a conclusion. I'll take one more question for you. It's an interesting one, and I think Ravish sort of touched upon this. How can a small business who wants to compete with larger corporations leverage AI on a budget that they may or may not have? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. Small businesses have the agility like the large companies don't. Large companies land up having big budget, approval processes, whole hiring people. Small company has an advantage because there's a lot available in open source. So you can go out and start with something small, tiny, like chatbots. I want to give better service. So invest a tiny bit of your time or somebody else's time who has AI expertise, and understand what is available to you at no cost and start investing in it immediately. Do not sit on the sideline saying, oh, I don't get it, oh, it's technology. Invest a tiny bit of time and jump in and see what kind of business you are and what kind of technology can immediately get you jump started on AI.
I think, Asha, I want to add to that, because a lot of people think that you have to spend a lot of money to get there. That is not the case. There are a lot of courses available. Actually, even Harvard has open courses on AI. You don't need to pay anything. Just go. There's so many, Coursera videos or EDX. You go there. There's so many, learning videos to learn about AI, and you will be surprised by the amount of free resources that you have online. And good news is you can pay by. If you are using it for business, for commercial purpose, a lot of these cloud companies like Azure and AWS have made it on pay-per-use basis. So you can really leverage that for, start small and it grows with your business. Think about that, and there are plenty of resources on that.
Ravish, Azure and learning will take time. They can also go to just bots which are available.
Exactly.
It's already built. AI is built. And all you do is get a free trial and use it for your company immediately.
Actually, on the Azure side also, Asha, there are pre-built
Yes, that's true.
bots that
You
you
can
have.
do that. Yeah.
Then you just need to use it. All you need to know is the context of your business, what kind of data you are dealing with, and that's pretty much it. That's what will get you there.
Exactly.
All right, excellent. Well, this was a really insightful, I say the start of a mini series inside of a series of our emerging tech here. So I want to thank you, Asha. Any last words of wisdom for us?
Listen, starting a conversation is important. The fact that we started the conversation and the attendees took time out to be here on a Saturday morning is critical. The fact that you're showing interest, I say curiosity is so important in your lifelong journey. So make sure you stay curious and take action.
And stay away from biases.
Right. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So I just officially want to thank you from Punjabi Chamber of Commerce on behalf of the staff and all the volunteers that worked to put this together. Thank you for your time, Asha. And I really hope that we will get other folks involved. We will get a broad base of our community leaders getting engaged. I would request, the attendees, or if you're spreading the word, get involved. It's very easy to get involved with PCC. Sign up, volunteer, and become a part of a growing community that is trying to do the right things by staying away from religion and politics and just being very inclusive and be diverse. Ravish, any last words?
Yeah. I just wanted to add a word from DC chapter as well, that this is an emerging series, emerging tech series. So we are covering AI. We'll be talking about IoT. We'll be talking about low code. There's so many other things to talk about. So just stay in tune. We will have plenty of other sessions coming your way in future as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, everybody, and have enjoyable rest of the weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. I'm closing the session for everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Jinya.